Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless official 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The morning haze over Los Angeles carried more than smog, it carried the weight of a secret that had been buried for decades. The city that had always been synonymous with glamour, deceit, and broken dreams was about to become the stage for the most shocking revelation the Newman family had ever faced. As the sun broke through the skyline, Victoria Newman's son, Ethan, stepped out of a black SUV with one mission: unearth the truth about Noah Newman's death, a truth his grandfather, Victor Newman, fought desperately to keep hidden. His arrival in LA wasn't just a visit, it was a reckoning. Ethan had grown up in his mother's shadow, molded by her fierce drive and complex love, but something inside him had changed after he stumbled across a folder labeled Project Noah in Victor's private archive at Newman Enterprises. What he found inside turned his world upside down: confidential reports, bank transfers, and old security footage showing Noah meeting someone on a deserted road the night he died. And the most disturbing part? Victor's own signature authorizing payments to silence witnesses. As Ethan's private investigator handed him more evidence, the pieces began to fit together. Victor hadn't just covered up Noah's death, he had orchestrated something far more sinister. Ethan's mind raced as he pieced together the timeline, realizing that Noah's tragic end wasn't an accident or random violence, it was the fallout of a cover-up meant to protect a secret child that could destroy the Newman dynasty. And that child was connected to Victoria's own bloodline. As he walked into his hotel suite overlooking the city, his phone buzzed. It was his mother. Victoria's voice trembled slightly when she asked where he was. Ethan lied, saying he was on a business trip, but she could hear something in his tone. "Ethan, what are you digging into?" she demanded. He hesitated. "Mom, there's something you never told me about Noah. Something grandfather buried." There was silence on the line before she whispered, "Don't go down that road, Ethan. You don't know what you're getting into." But it was too late. Ethan was already deep inside the labyrinth of secrets his family had constructed. Meanwhile, back in Genoa City, Victor Newman sat in his office at the ranch, staring at the same file Ethan had stolen copies of. He had always believed his power could protect his family from the truth, but now that very truth was slipping through his fingers. He had made a choice years ago, to cover up something that happened between Nick, Noah, and a mysterious young woman in Los Angeles when Noah was still alive. That night had ended in blood, betrayal, and a desperate lie that Victor had buried with money and manipulation. But now Ethan's curiosity had ripped open the grave. Nikki Newman entered the office quietly, her voice trembling as she asked, "Victor, what did you do?" He didn't look up. "I did what I had to do to protect this family." She stared at him, tears in her eyes. "At what cost?" "You've already lost one son, do you want to lose another?" Victor clenched his fists. He knew Nikki was right. His empire had been built on secrets, and now the ghosts were crawling out of the ground. Ethan's arrival in LA sent shockwaves through the media. Journalists caught wind that the Newman heir was investigating Noah's mysterious death. A local reporter leaked a photo of Ethan visiting the LAPD archives, and within hours, the story hit the front pages. Newman scandal resurfaces, grandson probes Noah Newman's hidden file. Victoria saw the headline while sipping her morning coffee in her penthouse. Her cup shattered as she realized that her son wasn't just curious, he was chasing the one truth that could destroy them all. She called Nick immediately. When he answered, his voice was heavy with guilt. "I knew this day would come," he muttered. "You don't understand, Vic. What happened that night, it wasn't supposed to go this far." Victoria's jaw tightened. "You were there?" Nick went silent. "Nick, what did you do?" Her brother's confession came like a dagger through her chest. "It wasn't just an accident. Noah found out about the payments Dad was making to silence someone. He confronted me, and I lost it. He pushed me, and he stopped, choking on his words." "You killed him?" she whispered, horrified. "No," he said, his voice breaking. "But I didn't stop what came next. I didn't stop her. Victoria's mind spun. Who? She demanded, but Nick hung up. The shame in his voice said everything. There was another player involved, someone who had disappeared from their lives after that night. Victoria immediately called Ethan again, but this time he ignored her. He was already standing at the door of a woman's house in Silver Lake, Noah's old friend, a woman named Alana Reyes. When she opened the door, her face went pale. "You're a Newman," she whispered. Ethan nodded. "I need to know what really happened to Noah." She shook her head violently. "You shouldn't be here. If your grandfather finds out I talked, he'll destroy me." Ethan stepped closer, desperation in his voice. He already destroyed everything else. "Please. Tell me." Alana trembled as she led him inside. On her living room table were stacks of old photographs, one of Noah smiling with a young boy in the background. Ethan froze. "Who is that kid?" he asked. Alana looked away. "That's Noah's son." Ethan's heart stopped. "Noah had a son?" She nodded slowly. "And your grandfather made sure the world never found out." As Ethan processed the shock, Alana explained how Noah had fallen in love years ago and had a child he never told his family about, fearing Victor's wrath. When Victor discovered the affair, he ordered everything erased, records, birth certificates, even the mother's name. But Noah had begun to rebel, threatening to go public with the truth. That night, he arranged to meet Nick to expose what Victor had done. But someone else showed up. A fight broke out, a gun went off, and the rest was buried in lies. Ethan sat in stunned silence as the truth sank in. Victor had covered up not only Noah's murder but also the existence of his grandson. A grandson who would now be a young man, living somewhere out there with no idea who he really was. Back in Genoa City, Nick sat at Crimson Lights, tormented by memories he couldn't escape. Sharon appeared, her eyes red from crying. "You lied to me, didn't you?" she whispered. "About Noah's death." Nick's face crumpled. "I thought I was protecting you. Protecting all of us." Sharon slapped him hard. "You protected yourself. You let me bury my son without knowing the truth." Her voice trembled as years of pain erupted. "I could have handled the truth, Nick, but you couldn't." He looked at her with broken eyes. "It wasn't supposed to happen that way. Dad made me swear never to tell you." Sharon's tears streamed down her face as she shouted, "Then Victor Newman destroyed us all." She stormed out, leaving Nick alone with his guilt. Victor, meanwhile, received a call from his private investigator. "Ethan's not just asking questions, sir, he found the boy." Victor's blood ran cold. "Where is he?" The investigator hesitated. "He's in Los Angeles, living under the name Noel Reyes." Victor slammed his fist on the desk. "Noel, as in Noah. He named the boy after his father." The irony cut through him like a knife. The secret he had tried to bury, the grandchild he erased, was alive, and now his own grandson Ethan had found him. For the first time in years, Victor Newman felt something unfamiliar, fear. Later that night, Ethan met Noel in a small cafe near the beach. The young man's resemblance to Noah was undeniable, the same eyes, the same smile tinged with melancholy. "You look like him," Ethan said softly. Noel frowned. "Who are you?" Ethan hesitated before answering. "I'm your cousin." The shock in Noel's face was palpable. "My cousin?" "My mom said I didn't have any family left." Ethan sighed. "You do. You just don't know the whole story." As Ethan revealed the truth piece by piece, Noel's world shattered. "You mean my grandfather paid to make me disappear?" he said, trembling. Ethan nodded. "He didn't want anyone to know you existed." Noel's voice broke. "He took my father away from me. And now he wants to erase me too?" Ethan clenched his fists. "Not if I can help it." By morning, the story had exploded across every media outlet. Victor Newman's hidden grandson found, family empire in crisis. Victoria called her son in panic, but Ethan didn't answer. She turned to Victor, furious. "This is your fault. You lied to all of us." Victor tried to defend himself, but his voice cracked under the weight of his own guilt. "I did what I thought was right." Victoria glared at him. "You destroyed our family to protect your pride." Nikki, standing in the doorway, whispered, "It's over, Victor. The truth is out." But Victor refused to accept defeat. "No," he said darkly. "As long as I'm alive, no one will destroy this family, not even the truth." In LA, Ethan and Noelle met with a journalist, ready to expose everything. But before they could speak, Victor's men intercepted them, warning Ethan to back off. "Walk away, or you'll regret it," one of them hissed. Ethan stared them down. "You can't silence us all." The confrontation ended with Ethan vowing to bring Victor down, even if it meant taking the entire Newman empire with him. By nightfall, Nick appeared at the ranch to face his father. "It's over, Dad," he said. "You can't control this anymore. I'm done lying for you." Victor turned his back to him. "You're weak, Nicholas. Always were." Nick's jaw tightened. "Maybe. But at least I'm not a coward hiding behind secrets." As he walked out, Victor finally broke, his mask of control crumbling. Alone in his office, he stared at an old photograph of Noah as a child. "I did it for you," he whispered, his voice cracking. But the silence that followed was deafening, filled only with the weight of a truth too dark to bury any longer. And as dawn broke over Los Angeles, Ethan and Noelle stood side by side on the beach, watching the sun rise over the waves. "You ready for what comes next?" Noelle asked quietly. Ethan nodded. "Yeah. It's time the world knows who you really are." The Newman name was about to face its greatest test, and Victor's worst nightmare, his family tearing itself apart because of the very secret he swore to protect, had finally come true. The truth about Noah's death, the hidden grandson, and Nick's shameful confession had set in motion a storm no one could stop. The dynasty Victor built with power and lies was crumbling, and this time, there was no burying the truth. The chaos that erupted after Ethan and Noelle's discovery spread like wildfire across both coasts, and by the next morning, Genoa City was ablaze with whispers, shock, and betrayal. Victor Newman's face filled every media outlet, from business headlines to tabloid gossip shows. The once untouchable patriarch now stood on the edge of public ruin. The revelation that he had hidden Noah's child, forged documents, and covered up a death that had haunted his family for years, wasn't just scandalous, it was devastating. For decades, Victor had maintained a legacy built on dominance and control. But now, that empire was crumbling, and the cracks were widening fast. Newman Enterprises stock plummeted, investors demanded explanations, and board members were calling emergency meetings. Inside the Newman Tower, Victoria stood in her office staring at her phone, the screen flashing with messages from journalists and allies alike. No comment, she kept replying, though her hands trembled. She wanted to protect her father, but the truth was eating away at her conscience. How could she defend him when he had betrayed not only the world but their blood? At that same moment, Nick Newman sat alone in his darkened home office, a half-empty glass of whiskey before him. The echoes of his confession to Victoria haunted him. Every word he'd said felt like a stab to his soul. He had lived with guilt for years, but hearing it out loud had torn open wounds he'd spent a lifetime burying. He stared at an old photo of Noah and Sharon smiling, before everything went wrong. "I'm sorry, son," he whispered hoarsely, tears welling in his eyes. "I should have protected you." His phone buzzed with a message from Ethan, "You need to come to LA. You owe Noah, and Noelle, the truth." Nick hesitated. He knew going there would mean facing not only his past but the boy who represented everything he'd lost. Finally, he stood, determination hardening his expression. "No more running," he muttered, grabbing his jacket. Meanwhile, Sharon was far from calm. The revelation had shaken her to her core. Her son, the boy she had mourned, was gone because of the Newman family's lies, lies that had stolen her motherhood, her peace, and her ability to heal. She stormed into Newman Ranch unannounced, her eyes blazing with fury. Nikki, startled by her sudden entrance, tried to calm her. "Sharon, please," but Sharon cut her off. "Where is he, Nikki? Where is Victor?" Her voice trembled, half rage, half heartbreak. When Victor appeared from his office, Sharon unleashed years of suppressed grief. "You destroyed my family, Victor. You made me bury my son without knowing the truth. You looked me in the eye and told me it was an accident." Victor tried to speak, but she wouldn't stop. "Do you even know what that did to me? To Nick? To all of us?" she shouted, tears streaking down her cheeks. "You may have thought you were protecting your empire, but all you did was poison it." Victor's expression hardened, but his eyes betrayed guilt. "Sharon, I never wanted Noah to die," he said quietly. "But I had to protect who?" Sharon interrupted sharply. "Your reputation? Your precious company? Or your own damn pride?" The silence that followed was suffocating. Nikki placed a trembling hand on Victor's shoulder, but he shook it off. Sharon stared at him one last time, her voice breaking. "You can't buy redemption, Victor. Not this time." She turned and stormed out, leaving Victor standing amid the ruins of his moral empire. For the first time in his life, the great Victor Newman looked small, broken, and old. In Los Angeles, Ethan and Noelle had gone into hiding. They had exposed enough of the truth to the press to make Victor sweat, but the real story, the one that would completely destroy the Newmans, was still locked inside a thumb drive Ethan had taken from Victor's archives. Inside that drive were documents proving Victor's direct involvement in bribing police officials, falsifying Noah's death report, and paying hush money to Alana Reyes and other witnesses. Ethan knew if he released those files, there would be no coming back for his grandfather. But part of him hesitated. He was torn between justice and loyalty, between his moral compass and the bloodline he carried. Noelle, however, felt no such hesitation. "He ruined my father's life. He erased me," he said bitterly. "Why should he get to keep his name clean?" Ethan looked at him and saw not just anger, but pain, deep, raw pain. "If you do this," Ethan warned, "there's no turning back. Victor will come after you, and so will half the world." Noelle clenched his jaw. "I'm not afraid of him. I want the truth out." As they debated, Victoria arrived unexpectedly at their motel room door. Both men froze. Ethan's heart pounded as he opened the door and came face to face with his mother. She looked pale, exhausted, and desperate. "We need to talk," she said softly. Once inside, she turned to Noelle, her voice trembling. "I'm sorry, for everything. You didn't deserve this." Noelle's expression was guarded. "Sorry doesn't bring my father back." Victoria nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "I know. And I don't expect forgiveness. But you need to understand, my father thought he was protecting us. He thought he could fix everything." Noelle glared at her. "By erasing me?" Victoria looked away. "By trying to control the uncontrollable. It's who he is." Ethan stood silently, torn between anger and compassion. "Mom," he said softly, "it's too late for excuses. The world deserves to know what he did." Victoria's eyes flashed with fear. "Ethan, if you release that information, it won't just destroy your grandfather, it'll destroy all of us. Everything our family built, every company, every partnership, gone." Ethan stared at her. "Maybe it deserves to fall."